We're just delighted to welcome you all to our new venue, and delighted that Rachael West, yogic educator extraordinaire, has been getting up a bit of mischief together, so we've gotten to know each other really well and stands and the like over the last year or so.
But thank you very much for having me. As actually a lot of you I haven't met. I'm Rachael West and I run Finding Yoga. Wonderful. Now I can look at all your beautiful faces. There we go, and I'll stand here and then we can... And one of the things I've been doing for the last about 3 years in Perth is running gentle yoga for fibromyalgia and other chronic pain conditions. And I've been watching in this time many, it's mostly women, I will say, get back into exercise and do things with their bodies that I think they probably didn't think they would be able to do. And I've also watched them make time in their weeks for a practice that helps them kind of manage the stress of their condition and also feel a bit better in themselves about their bodies. And so I first met you, or some of you, I met about 3 years ago when I'd first come back to Perth, and I had just finished a university diploma in yogic education in France. I'd done circus school in the north of England, and I showed you a video of me lifting a woman above my head, and I was very proud of that because that was quite an achievement for me after having been tired and sick for so long. To do this in a performance was sort of like a childhood dream coming true. But what I actually want to talk about today more is the work that I have been doing since then. And so when I work out how to use this and turn it on, this is why I have an engineering degree, but there's a reason I've become a yoga teacher. So the work that we've been doing with Finding Yoga, and share some of the stories of the people that have been coming through, and also a little bit of the research. A lot of it's quite new into exercise therapy and yoga for fibromyalgia. Discuss the difference between yoga and Pilates, particularly yogic education and why that's useful for chronic pain. And look at how you practice in a way that is appropriate when your bodies don't always feel like you want them to feel. It's the best day of my 2013, apart from one of the workshops where Rosemary was there. There was my second favourite day, was December 16, 9:30 in the morning. And the reason it was my happiest day of the year was because this was what happened in my gentle yoga for fibromyalgia course. So this is a joke. She'd forgotten her exercise gear and she'd come in a dress. And it was quite fitting because she happened to do a bend back that day. And that's everyone else in the background giving it a go. Now, this is not what we normally do in gentle yoga at all. I think even if you'd told me that morning we were going to be doing bend backs or doing crow pose, I would have been really surprised. This is crow pose, Bakasana. They're balancing on two hands, knees tucked into their arms, and the feet are off the floor. It's quite an advanced posture. And I was blown away. I was so proud. And so for a lot of these women who, when they began the classes, really hadn't been able to use their body, so to have that strength in itself was quite amazing, and it's really wonderful to watch. But what for me was the most impressive was not so much the physical strength, because as you probably know, some days we can think it's a very sensible thing to do something very acrobatic, and then we realise the next day that maybe that wasn't such a good idea. So what impressed me most was how they went about doing this. Was when I said, we're going to do Bakasana, it's a hand balance. They didn't sort of say, oh no, I can't do that, I'll just watch. They also didn't say, oh, I better get this right, I better do it because that's what everyone else is doing. You know, they watched and they looked at how it was done. They gave it a little go, and then they rested and they waited. And then they tried it again to see what they could work out this time, and some of them actually found themselves balancing with their feet off the floor. Like, whoa. So it wasn't so much what they did, but it was how they did it. And I think for me, when I saw this, I just realised that question that people often ask, is yoga good for me or is yoga bad for me, kind of becomes a moot question. It almost doesn't make sense because I think it is yoga per se good or bad? It's how we do the yoga, whether it's suitable for our bodies in that moment. So what is yoga? And you'll be pleased to know this is how we finished the class. And it's actually how a lot of the classes, especially for the first few months that those ladies were doing the yoga, this is how it tends to look. It's a bit more like this opposed to the acrobatic stuff. Who here has been in a yoga class before? Okay, so quite a few. Yeah, so you've probably done a physical yoga class where you do postures and stretching and strength. And maybe some breathing work, a bit of breathing, yeah. So most people know yoga as these physical movements that, something like a triangle posture which stretches, it builds strength and it builds flexibility, or the warrior poses which even cultivate, you can see that's very strong even in your mind. And these are really good for building your strength, your physical health. A lot of the twists especially help with your digestive system, and it also can balance your hormones, which is quite handy, so it's good. But this physical practice, as we know yoga today, has actually probably only been around for about 100 years. There was a period of great innovation in Mysore. If you happen to have been to India, you'll know that that's where one of the main Ashtanga schools is. And physical yoga became very, very popular as part of the physical culture in India. And there's one researcher, Mark Singleton, who suggests that Ashtanga yoga, which is a very physical practice, it's one where you go to a class, you do the same thing every day at about 5:45 in the morning until you master that series, and then you move on to an advanced series that you do every day. He suggests that came about as a way of entertaining the Maharaja, even to the point that in the practice you hold the posture for 5 breaths, and his suggestion is that 5 breaths is long enough for the teacher to explain to an audience, this is what this posture is, but without the audience getting bored. So, even then there's been innovation in yoga and the forms of yoga. And so at that time, not everyone was doing Ashtanga yoga, hardcore, acrobatic physical yoga. People were adapting the posture to their bodies, to their health needs, and also, I guess, in a way that was attractive to the populace. But it does sit within a lineage of thousands of years. So it doesn't mean that when you go to your class and they put you in a downward dog with your hands and feet on the floor and your bum in the air, it doesn't mean Indians were doing that 3,000 years ago. But the concept of yoga has been handed down for quite some time. And I will talk a little bit more about some of what's happening with it now. And the other thing, I guess in response again to that question, is yoga good or bad? Even just within the physical practices of yoga, this asana, the postures, there are different styles, there are different teachers, and different teachers will take a different point of focus from week to week. So you can have quite a different experience from one vinyasa class to the other, from one hatha yoga class to another. They can feel very different. But we've all heard horror stories. Now, these can be from the person who's gone to Ashtanga yoga, worked too hard, sprained their wrist, and then kept going every day and made their injury worse, to if anyone happens to have heard of the Lululemon, yeah, there's a bit of controversy there. But particularly with chronic pain, I would more want to talk about the issues that fibromyalgia and similar conditions have with practicing yoga, and I think it's the same almost with any physical practice with pain. Oh, and often the problems happen because you've tried to do something like this and you weren't ready for it. That's my sister there, being very obliging. We often find that the beginners classes are just too much. With certainly in my experience, the classes are open to all levels. It's come and start, and I would get there and I'd be exhausted. Or from week to week. One week I'd be okay, one week I'd be too exhausted. And then I'd start feeling guilty So I couldn't do it. And the teachers, when the teacher's saying to you, just everybody working at your own pace, there's no need to let go of the ego, you just do what you can. And then you've got 20 sort of lithe bodies putting their legs over their shoulders, and it's quite hard to stay zen. So it gets frustrating because you're not doing the things, you think, oh, I'm not getting the benefit. It makes your pain worse, that's really common. The flare-ups happen, and that happens for different reasons. It hurts. And very much I see with the chronic pain is you can't tell what's good pain and when I say good pain, like what's useful pain, what's part of just exercising your body, and what's actually your body saying, oh no, don't do that. So you kind of get a bit scared, body goes into shock, and it tries to protect you, and it says, let me tighten, I'm just gonna protect you so that you don't hurt yourself. And it doesn't necessarily always help. So you overdo it and it hurts. And then the one thing that's maybe not talked about so much is that we kind of go the opposite way. We do lazy yoga. So the opposite to overdoing it becomes not really doing enough to get the benefits. So the research, however, does say it's good for us. So this particular study, post-treatment, I think that was 53 women, yoga of awareness program. Women assigned to the yoga program showed significantly greater improvements on standardised measures of fibromyalgia symptoms. I've taken this directly from the report, that's why it's got this language in it. And function, including pain, fatigue, mood, and also pain catastrophizing, acceptance, and other coping strategies. This was a slightly smaller study, and they were more making recommendations about that more research should be done because it looks promising. Altering the cortisol level, so the stress response in the body that's going on. And that's in Canada. You might have seen there's quite a lot of research in pain coming out of North America and Canada in particular. Some of you might have come across Kelly McGonigal. She's got a great TED talk on stress, and she also has a talk on how the research on yoga shows its effect on the neurotransmitters that control our stress response. And she talks about the fact that it happens not because you do 3 hours of yoga and then you stockpile all this stress resilience, it's because you practice daily, sort of like a daily dose that you get of things. And a lot of the research into mindfulness, exercise therapy, and I do see yoga, and particularly yogic education, which I'll talk about, as sitting in that space kind of in between. Because a lot of the work I see being done, sometimes it sits with your physical symptoms or it sits with your mental health, and some about yoga can kind of sit in that space of both. So if yoga is so damn good, why doesn't it work for me? Has anyone had an instance where they've gone to try a yoga class and they've actually just felt really crap afterwards? Anyone? Yeah. So it's quite often, and I think the conversations have changed the last few years. When I first started talking about yoga, people, oh, no, I can't do yoga. And now people are starting to say, well, where's a yoga teacher in my area, and how might I do it? But yeah, one of the things they talk about in the research, it's kind of ironic, is that most women with fibromyalgia are less physically active than women of the same age. And there's kind of good reason for this. The symptoms make it difficult for you to exercise. So you can't really do it long enough to get any of the benefits, which kind of sucks. So the recommendations that I've been reading is that they say, well, if there's future research into exercise therapy, you should make sure you consider that there's possible adverse effects of exercise and that it affects their dropout rates. So as you know, just because you read in the West health section, exercise is great for fibromyalgia. You know that you don't just go out and join a tennis club or join the advanced yoga class because exercise is good. There's sort of this qualification that you learn to do it appropriately. So in summary, the pain stops you exercising. You don't keep it up long enough to get the benefits. You flare up afterwards and the pain kind of stops you exercising. It's this really vicious cycle that I see quite a lot, and also, you know, experienced obviously it myself. So yoga versus Pilates versus yogic education. So if anyone's heard my joke about the yoga, I've got to a party and people ask, well, what do you do? And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. With engineering, no one knows what it is. So they'd all say, oh, you must be really good at maths. There'd be no conversation whatsoever. I thought, yoga, people like yoga. They're going to talk to me about it. And I said, hi, I'm Rachel. What do you do? I teach yoga. Oh, I did yoga once. Hi, I'm Rachel. What do you do? I teach yoga. Oh, my girlfriend does yoga. Hi, I'm Rachel. What do you do? I teach yoga. Oh, my girlfriend does Pilates. It's very, very common. They are different. Some of the shapes are the same. You'll make the same physical activity, but their origins are same, different, the intentions are different. And particularly the aspect of yogic education is the area that I'm really interested in. So I'm going to talk about some of the other limbs to yoga apart from just the physical practice. That is what we're most familiar with. And how these allow you to practice a physical practice in a way that's safe for your bodies and kind of your emotional state as well. Now, most of you will, so the asana I've explained, that's the physical movement, and that can be as much as, you know, these triangle postures, or it can be just sitting in your chair taking a twist. It's the physical movements. The pranayama, which you often do in classes with the breath work, it's wonderful for relaxing the body, calming the mind, bringing your focus inwards, helps manage your energy. And then there's these other limbs. There's 8 limbs in total, and about 4 of them relate to different stages of meditations, how you focus the mind. And so obviously, if you're a bit anxious about your health, being able to just focus can kind of just let some of the periphery anxiety drop away a little bit. And most people have seen meditation done in some way. The bit that I'm really interested in is the yamas and the niyamas, which are the ethical precepts. And if you've come to my workshop, you will have heard me mention these. Has anyone else heard of the yamas and the niyamas? And how did you learn about them? Are you a yoga teacher? Nikki, where do you teach?
I teach in Colombo.
Oh, okay, do you have your own studio?
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay. Okay, great. Another yoga teacher. So the yamas and the niyamas, these ethical precepts, they are considered to be the foundation of our practice in terms of how we are with ourselves and how we are with our others. There's 5 of each. And for example, one of the yamas is non-violence, ahimsa. So what that says is that every time you do a yoga posture, whether it's a stretch of your shoulders in your chair or a handstand, is that you practice in a way that is non-violent. It's not going to cause you damage in your body so that you can't practice the next day. It's not going to stress you out so that you actually end up more worried than when you began. The second of the yamas is satya, truthfulness. And so what that means is that, yeah, you're going to practice in a way that's safe for your body, but you're also going to learn to be at your edge. You're not going to sell yourself short by doing too little. So by working with this space, the balance between non-violence and truthfulness, you find that place that's most appropriate for you. And the others that are quite interesting is brahmacharya, which relates to your energy, the way you put your energy into the most beneficial things. And another one is svajaya, the study of the self. And this is probably the one that excites me the most. And so I think this is sort of where we move from yoga as a practice to yoga as a way of education. Because you can go to yoga, you can go to classes every week and you feel good. You're presuming you've got the right class, you feel quite good. And so you keep going and you feel good, and you keep going and you feel good. But nothing really changes. So what I think we learn through the yogic education is to learn not just about our physical body, but to learn about ourselves in the process. And the framework that we would use in the course that I studied, any French speakers? Savoir, savoir-faire, savoir-être. Yeah, Roseanne speaks French, and so to savoir is to know, savoir-faire is to know how to do, savoir-être to know how to be. So you can know that yoga is good for you, that twisting is good for your digestion. Then you can know how to do it. Yeah, okay, yeah, I can, put these things in the right place. I can do it. And savoir-être, I know how to be in that posture in a way that's appropriate for me, that's effortless for my body, that's doing me good, rather than just what I think it should look like. So let's just do some stuff. I'd like to begin by just staying in your chair, uncross your legs, feet flat on the floor, and I'd like you to just take a twist and just turn to your right. You might put one hand on the back of the chair, one hand on the outside of your leg, and we always twist to the right first for your digestion. So you just find a way that lets you twist in a way that feels comfortable, that you're not going to put anything out. Good, and then come back to your centre and change directions to the other way. And come back to the centre. So this is very good for you.
I've just had an operation. I've just had a gallbladder out, so I'm not doing it.
You can imagine you're doing it. Sometimes imagining it, you get the same effects. This is very good for your spine. Mobilises the spine. It's good for the digestion. It can relax you. And it's called stretching. So now, let's make that yoga. Anyone feel like saying what it might feel like or look like if it's yoga versus stretching?
Breathe in, your fully stretch, and then just stretch.
Yeah. Oh.
Breathing in, so you feel like
Yeah, so aware of your breath and using the breath to move your body. And also this mindful practice. Anything else? Yeah, it's one of those things where you can't necessarily define. Sometimes it's hard to say, am I doing yoga now or am I not? Sometimes you just know. It's a bit like, am I being loving to my husband today? It's hard to define what you're doing, but you know when you're not. So let's just take a couple of moments to prepare our bodies and our minds and do some of this breath awareness, just to see if we can change the quality of that twist. So you can either have your eyes open or closed as you prefer. Rest your hands on your lap if that's comfortable for you, or folded in your lap. And just give yourself some time to feel your breath in and out through the nose. And as you exhale, soften your shoulders, your hips, let the back of your legs relax. Feel your feet if they reach the floor, just feeling nice and supported by the floor. And every breath, feel yourself getting a little bit taller. Yeah, so you're getting taller with the breath and you're just relaxing a few muscles. And you're aware of your breath. So what we'll try now is that you're going to inhale to prepare so you get nice and long, and on your exhale you're just going to soften into your twist. And just hold that for a few breaths. So everyone, get taller on your inhale if you haven't already. And exhale, take a twist and relax into it. So Renata, just pop your hand there on your leg and that can give you a bit of support, and come forward a little bit on your chair so your spine's nice and vertical. So keep this awareness of your breath. In and out through the nose. Good, and inhale, come back to the centre and just relax everything. And we'll do it again to the other direction. So inhale, get tall, and exhale, twist to the other side. Allow your eyes to be still and let your gaze fall behind the eyes, so it's like they're very soft. Breath is nice and steady. filling the lungs. And you can draw yourself back to the centre with the breath. And just rest your hands in the lap, close your eyes again. Let the breath slow down. Feel the sitting bones on the chair. Feel your bottom jaw relax away from the top jaw. Just allowing the mind to be calmed by the breath, steadied by the breath. And you might just notice how you were with yourself when you did that twist. Did you explore it? You can stay with your eyes closed if you want, or open them if that's more comfortable for you. It's just to notice how you approached it. Did you go gently? Did you judge yourself? Good. And bring yourself back into the room. And if you want to take a forward bend, we can inhale, take your arms up over the head. If that's too strong for your shoulders, keep your hands on your shoulders. And exhale, just fold forward and take your belly onto your thighs, if it gets that far, and just relax the head. Otherwise, if you don't quite get there, just rest your forearms on your knees. Just fold your forearms like this, or yeah. If you're very flexible, you can go all the way down. Nice full breath, breathing into the back, or imagining you're breathing into the back. And exhale. And then take a big inhale to come all the way up. And if you want another big stretch, you can take your hands up over the head. Nice, steady breath. Just imagining, if this is too strong in your shoulders, just keep your hands on the hips. You're going to exhale and stretch over to one side, stretch the side of your body. Inhale back to the centre. And exhale over to the other side. Or imagining, and inhale, come up. And relax the shoulders. Yeah. So you can see there's it's a subtle but distinct difference between stretching and doing mindful practice, and probably even then from doing yoga, or if you're a Tai Chi practitioner, you know, one of these lineages has a different quality to it. And so I think the opportunity with pain is what we can learn about our bodies and ourselves, and sometimes it begins by learning where we're tight and learning how to relax that, just giving that shoulder permission to let go. But there's also I think some learning about what we're doing kind of with our lives and how we relate to our bodies. So if you find that you're judging yourself and going, oh, I should be able to get a little bit further, to be able to learn to let that go and to work with the body as it is in this moment. So for myself, obviously I have an engineering degree and I'm living in Western Australia where there's a mining boom, and I'm working as a yoga teacher. But if I hadn't been crook, I wouldn't have quit my job. I wouldn't have gone to circus school, and I wouldn't be doing a work that's, in service, that's of others, that feels, sort of like my direction. And there's a lady who's come to my workshops a few times, and she, hopefully I'm quoting correctly, her daughter, I believe, said, I wouldn't have been so happy if I hadn't been so sick. And so it's just to look at what are the opportunities for me in this, to learn and to grow. Now this is a quote from Ellie, one of the young ladies who's been coming to my classes for a while, and this is what she said a few months in. The yoga process gives me freedom in my body, in movement and ease, as well as a sense of peace of mind through concentration and meditation on postures. But I also find that continued practice has helped me think about my condition differently, without anger and frustration. It has promoted a sense of love and care of my body and mind. I guess it's helped me mentally and emotionally to nurture rather than fight, resist or grieve for what I've been going through. It's very much a mental as well as a physical process for me. As you know, you experience pain as a physical thing, and that's often what the doctors want to treat, but you know that it's operating at different levels. It's not just a physical thing for you. So something really wonderful actually happened with Ellie this week. Was she came to one of my vinyasa workshops. Now, vinyasa is a flowing yoga that can be very, very physical. It can also be a bit gentler, but it's often very physical. And this was a 2.5-hour workshop. And when Ellie came to the class, I watched her really distribute the weight through her body and be very aware of how her movements were. I saw her take rests when she needed to. And when she saw me on Tuesday at the gentle yoga class, she said, "Oh, I slept wonderfully afterwards." She said, I'm really pleased that I was able to do that length of practice. And what I recalled when I went back through her notes was that when she came first of the time to the workshops, she had said that her intention, or what she hoped for her health, was to be resilient in her body and to find strength. And so what I had watched her find was finding the strength, but without the forcing it. She allowed the strength to come through in her body gradually, softly, over time. And Jo, who you saw doing the back bend, she had actually come with the intention to find confidence, because she'd been a gymnast when she was younger, and she was really scared after a back injury. And so we saw, obviously, she had a lot of confidence that day. And another woman last week was telling me that she's been practicing at home. She got a bolster from her husband for her Christmas present, and she gave him a bolster for his Christmas present, and they've been doing yoga together quite regularly. And when I went back and looked over her notes, her intention had been to find a regular practice, and she'd made that happen. So even though many of them had forgotten about their original intention, they'd put it out there, they'd written it down, and then they just sort of let it go and got on with doing what was most appropriate on that day for their bodies at that moment. So when you decide to go to do yoga of some sort, to give yourself the best chance to get the benefits that are available to you, whether that is to relax your muscles, to get pain relief, or to help your mind cope with what is going on in your life, connect with the body and the breath before practicing. That is what's going to give you the perception of yourself, the proprioception to practice non-violently and truthfully, and to welcome the teacher and the style that is most appropriate for you and your needs at that time. And have an intention as well. So thank you very much. I'd be very happy to answer some questions if you wish. Thank you.